I graded the entire 2019 Baltimore Ravens draft class 6 years later. I'm sure most of you guys know, but if you haven't been following along, I started this draft regrade series this offseason, and I'm going through every Ravens draft class throughout history. 2024 all the way to 1996. I've already done 2024 through 2020. They're in a playlist called Regrade. If you guys haven't seen that, you can go check those videos out. But let's get into 2019. This was Eric DeCosta's first draft as the solo GM, the main GM. Ozzie Newsome was obviously the GM before him. So let's dive into Eric DeCosta's first draft as the Ravens GM. In the first round at pick 25, the Baltimore Ravens drafted Marquise Hollywood Brown, wide receiver, Oklahoma. Brown quickly became a key part of the Ravens offense. This 2019 year was Lamar Jackson's first year as a starting quarterback. Hollywood was a big piece to that offense. He was the Ravens' #1 receiver. Now, it was a pretty weak receiving corps, but he was brought in to push the ball downfield. In 2022 draft night, he was traded to the Arizona Cardinals along with a third-round pick for the Arizona Cardinals' first-round pick that we ended up taking Tyler Linderbaum with. Hollywood with the Cardinals played 26 games, had 118 catches, 1,283 yards, 8 touchdowns. He did battle some injuries, which hampered his 2023 season. And then in March 2024, Hollywood signed a 1-year deal with the Chiefs. He appeared in 12 games with them, caught 33 balls for 422 yards, and he just re-signed this offseason with the Chiefs. Hollywood was solid for the Ravens. He wanted out. That's the reason he was traded. It really wasn't a production thing. I don't think Eric DeCosta wanted to really trade him. That was his first draft pick ever. This was his first pick as the Ravens GM, and I think he felt tied to that. But we found out later after he was traded that Hollywood had been asking to be traded for a few years. You know, he felt like he wasn't utilized to his full potential in that Greg Roman Ravens offense and wanted out. So the Ravens ended up getting a first-round pick for him, which is a lot of value. I don't think that Hollywood would fetch a first-round pick at all now, but the Ravens were able to get a solid return back for Hollywood. They ended up drafting a franchise center in Tyler Linderbaum. We can't forget, though, that this draft class in the second round had guys like DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown go. So I think the Ravens probably could have made a better pick here, but it's not like Hollywood's a bad football player. He had some good moments with Baltimore. He helped us, and I'm going to grade this pick a B. I don't think it's a home run pick, but we were able to get out of it and get a first round in return and go draft Tyler Linderbaum to keep the draft train rolling. So I think the Ravens kind of turned Hollywood into a franchise center while also getting some productive years out of him. So this pick did work out for the Ravens, but it's definitely not a home run pick, especially when there's DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown that went after Hollywood. Hollywood was the first receiver taken, so we could have taken any receiver in that class, and we went with Hollywood. I think the Ravens probably would have been better off taking an A.J. Brown or DK, but that's why this pick's a B. I don't think it's anything to write home about, but I don't think it really hurt the Ravens in a huge way because we ended up getting a solid return for them. Moving on to round 3, the Ravens did not have a second round pick in 2019 because the year prior in 2018, they traded that second round pick as part of a package trade to move back into the first round in 2018 to draft their franchise quarterback, Lamar Jackson. So that was obviously worth it, but you know, the sacrifice was in 2019, we did not have a second round pick. So in the third round at pick 85, the Ravens took Jaylon Ferguson, outside linebacker, Louisiana Tech. Now, first of all, I just want to say rest in peace to Jaylon Ferguson. Jaylon Ferguson tragically passed away in 2022 offseason and unfortunately was not able to live out his NFL career. The Ravens brought him in the third round because he was a sack monster in college. He set the NCAA sack record. He was nicknamed Sack Daddy and played for the Ravens from 2019 to 2021. Played in 38 games, started 14 of them, had 62 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, primarily a rotational outside linebacker. And then, like I said earlier, he tragically passed away in June of 2022 at the age of 26. So I don't feel comfortable grading this pick. I'm grading this pick an incomplete. I don't think it's fair to put a grade on a guy who passed away at 26 years old and never got to see out the rest of his NFL career. So I'm just not putting a grade on this. I'm putting this as incomplete. And rest in peace, Jaylon Ferguson. Moving on to the second third-round pick. At pick number 93, the Ravens took Miles Boykin, wide receiver, Notre Dame. Boykin spent 3 seasons with the Ravens, played in 40 games, started 13. He had 33 catches for 470 yards, 7 touchdowns. Was more of a blocker and special teams contributor. Had a few moments at wide receiver, but was never consistently a threat at receiver. He was released by Baltimore in April of 2022, ended up joining the Pittsburgh Steelers, which has been a common theme lately. He appeared in 26 games with them, only had 5 catches for 30 yards, mainly a special teams player with them. And then in 2024, this past year, he signed with the New York Giants, but was cut before the season even started. And then he ended up signing with the Seahawks practice squad in November of last year. This was a third-round pick that just really didn't work out for the Ravens. Miles Boykin, I remember that one. He had a big catch in the Seattle game, that Lamar Jackson, go for it on 4th down game. It was raining in Seattle. It was kind of an underthrown ball. Miles Boykin went up and got it. I always remember that. But he didn't have a ton of big moments with the Ravens and just never really was a consistent threat at receiver for us. Probably wasn't the best third-round pick. So, therefore, I'm going to grade this draft pick a D+. Moving on to the 4th-round pick at 113, the Ravens took Justice Hill, running back, Oklahoma State. Hill's role has grown over the years tremendously. He has now carved himself out to have a great role with the Ravens and provides incredible running back depth and a speed option to counter what Derrick Henry brings to the table. Through 6 seasons, he's played in 78 games for us, rushed for 1,592 yards, averaging 5.3 yards a carry, scored 9 touchdowns. He's also added 73 catches for 564 yards and 2 touchdowns. 2023 was kind of his breakout season where he really established a role. There was a time for the first couple years where Justice Hill wasn't really in a predominant role with the Ravens, but in 2023, he stepped up his game. He took a leap, and the Ravens were giving him more and more opportunity, and now Justice Hill is comfortably in Baltimore's rotation. I know we got Keaton Mitchell coming back healthy this year. We got Derrick Henry still, but Justice Hill is involved in the Ravens offense. He signed an extension with the Ravens, and this ended up being a really good draft pick for the Ravens in the 4th round, a running back that consistently provides value on special teams, as a depth running back, as a lead back in some moments, as a receiving option. Justice Hill is a very versatile player, and I'm going to grade this a B+. Moving on to the next 4th round pick. Pick 123, the Ravens took Ben Powers, guard, Oklahoma. Powers spent 4 seasons with the Ravens, played in 36 games, started 17 of them, became a full-time starter in 21, provided solid depth and versatility on the offensive line. And in March 23, when he was a free agent, he ended up signing a 4-year, $51.5 million deal with the Broncos. He's been with Denver since then. He started in all 32 games that he's played and has established himself as a reliable left guard for the Broncos and a great starting solid left guard in the NFL. The Ravens chose to not re-sign Ben Powers, but this was also a great pick. I mean, a guy in the 4th round that you get ends up starting for you for a few years, provided depth prior to that, and then ends up getting really good payday, goes to Denver, and is now Denver's starting left guard still. I think this was a great draft pick, great find in the 4th round. I know the Ravens didn't get that second contract. Obviously, that was their choice. They probably could have kept him, but he got a great payday and is a solid starting guard in the NFL. So great find in the 4th round. I'm going to grade this pick a B+ as well. Moving on to the final 4th round pick. At pick number 127, the Ravens drafted Iman Marshall, cornerback, USC. Marshall's career was derailed by injuries. He was with the Ravens from 2019 to 2022, but mostly on the practice squad. He got Playing time in 3 games, recorded 1 tackle, was mainly on injured reserve and the practice squad, having knee injuries and some other injuries. He just could not stay healthy. He ended up getting released by Baltimore in August of 2022. He signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers practice squad in November of 2022, but couldn't stick around. In 2023, he was out of the NFL and joined the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL and has not made his way back into the NFL. So this ended up not being a great 4th-round pick, especially after hitting on Justice Hill and Ben Powers. You can't hit on everyone, but the Ravens definitely did not hit on Iman Marshall, and we never really know how it could have panned out. I remember when we drafted Iman Marshall, he was graded as a great pick at that time, but when you have that many injuries and cannot stay on the field, it's kind of hard to see what someone's full potential was because injuries just derailed this guy's chance. So I'm going to grade this pick a D. He stuck around on the Ravens for 3 seasons. They definitely liked what his potential was, but could not stay healthy, and they had to just end up moving on. And then he tried to go play for Pittsburgh. That didn't work out. Then he ended up in the CFL, so hopefully he can thrive there and find some type of career, but it definitely did not work out in the NFL, and mainly due to injuries. So going D with this pick. Moving on to the 5th round at pick 160, the Ravens took Daylon Mack, defensive tackle, Texas A&M. Mack had a brief NFL career. He played in 1 game for the Ravens in 2019 before being waived in August of 2020. So he only ended up playing for the Ravens his rookie season. And then he had stints on practice squads of the Giants, Packers, Cardinals. In 2022, he ended up going to play for the Tampa Bay Bandits in the USFL. And then in 2023, he joined the Memphis Showboats. In 2024, he signed with the DC Defenders of the UFL and has never made his way back into the NFL pretty much after his rookie season. So I'm going to grade this pick in F. I know that's harsh, but when a guy doesn't even stick around on the team for more than his rookie season and then can't even make an NFL roster after, I just feel like this was a wasted 5th-round pick. And then the last pick in the 6th round at pick 197, the Ravens took Trace McSorley, quarterback, Penn State. McSorley served as a 3rd-string quarterback and gadget player for the Ravens from 2019 to 2021. He appeared in 6 games, had 13 completions for 157 yards and a touchdown, also rushed for 37 yards and a touchdown. He ended up getting signed off of the Ravens practice squad by the Cardinals in November of 2021. Played in 6 games for them in 2022. He started 1, had 90 passing yards and 2 interceptions, was released by Arizona in August of 2023. Bounced around practice squads of the Patriots, Bears, Steelers, Commanders, and he is now the assistant quarterbacks coach at Penn State. I always liked Trace McSorley's fire. I feel like he was a high-level competitor. Every time he was out there, he was trying hard. Even at Penn State all the way to the Ravens, too. Every time he got a chance in the preseason, I always kind of liked his fire, but he just really didn't have all the skills to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. It's a 6th-round pick. It wasn't an awful move. I mean, you don't hit on a lot of those, and the Ravens did have a depth quarterback for a few years. For the Ravens, just from a value standpoint of this draft pick in the 6th round, I'm going to go D+. So that rounds out the 2019 Baltimore Ravens draft class. Not a great draft, in my opinion. I think once again, we hit on some depth guys in the 4th round. Justice Hill, Ben Powers ended up being great picks, but we really missed on Miles Boykin. We missed on Iman Marshall due to injuries, unfortunately, and Daylon Mack. Those were pretty strong misses. Miles Boykin did play for us, but it was a 3rd-round pick, and I just don't feel like he provided enough value for the 3rd round. But Jaylon Ferguson, rest in peace. Like I said, that's an incomplete grade. I don't know how that would have worked out. He was too young in his career, and for me to cement a final grade on that feels wrong. And then Hollywood, decent 1st-round pick. I definitely think the Ravens would have been better served to go get an A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf, who was easily available at that spot. But regardless, Hollywood provided us some solid years, and we were able to get a first-round pick in return for Hollywood and draft Tyler Linderbaum. So overall, I think that pick didn't hurt the Ravens too much, and this draft was just okay. I don't think it was great by any means. This is probably not the start that Eric DeCosta really wanted looking back on this draft class. You know, the Ravens didn't have too many people stick around outside of Justice Hill. It is crazy to look back at some of these draft classes and see all the people that aren't on the team anymore. And the further we get back, I'm sure that's going to obviously happen more and more. But 6 years ago in 2019, the only player still on the Ravens is Justice Hill, and has been that way for a few years now. But let me know what you guys are thinking about these grades, the draft class overall, and appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll let the greatest linebacker in the history of the game take us out.
Ravens Flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. The Flock Rundown. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.